Let's take a look at the doors. Yes, that sounds like a good plan. Jumpy headed toward the doors, weaving his way between the beds. He started with door 3 on the left and moved to the right until he reached door 8. It's no use. Well, of course. If it was that easy to open these doors, what would be the point of the nonary game? We have to activate the red or the numbered doors won't... Oh, wait a minute. What's wrong? Look! The display on the red. There's nothing on it. Huh? Don't you remember? The red at the central staircase? If no one was inside, it said vacant. Oh yeah, you're right. But this one... There's nothing on it. Right? I wonder if it's broken? Only one way to find out. It didn't respond. All 4 took turns placing their hands over the red, but it refused to respond. They pulled at the lever, and still it did nothing. As they soon discovered, it wasn't only the red for door 8 that was behaving strangely. The red on door 7 also refused to respond. And door 3 was similarly silent. None of them would respond. What did it mean? Haha, I knew it. They're broken. Zero sure sucks at maintenance. No, that's impossible. You really think Zero, who prepared all of this, would make such a stupid simple mistake? Ruf mal einer den Hausmeister! Kommt ja gleich einer mit dem Werkzeugkasten an oder so. Ja mei, ich soll hier die Türen fixen. Dab, 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 dab. Irgendwie wäre das lustig. Gut, egal. Maybe, but that doesn't explain why this thing ain't working. It was at that moment that they heard a voice from behind them. I believe the bottom of the device has been removed. They spun around to see... Snake! Snake! Dub, 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 dub. Yeah, but it was more than just Snake. Ace, Clover and Seven quickly filed into the room as well. Although they were glad to see one another, it wasn't terribly surprising that they had. If it had been the other party who'd opened the gate in front of the kitchen, it wasn't unreasonable that they'd bump into one another eventually. The rest of Snake's team, however, did look rather surprised. How did you guys... How did you end up here? Alle wieder zusammen, na na na. After a moment of silence and surprise, everyone suddenly began to talk, desperate to exchange information. They talked about the rooms they'd been through and how they'd ended up in the same place. Of course, none of it was very useful information, but that hardly mattered. They were happy to simply see one another again. Although the level of cheer varied greatly from person to person, each one of them was wearing some manner of smile. Almost as though they had already forgotten about the death of the 9th man. No, thought Jumpy. Perhaps that wasn't it. Perhaps thoughts of his death were what drove them to smile at one another. Not in a morbid or hateful way, no. The 9th man had died. But they were still alive, and that was something to be happy about. A sort of simple, uncomplicated joy, Jumpy thought. The joy of being alive. Still alive. He felt sorry for the 9th man, but more than anything, Jumpy was just happy to be alive. There you have it. Our half of the story. His part finished, Ace fell silent. For a moment, Jumpy was silent and thought. Then he spoke. Okay, let me see if I've got all this straight. When you guys got here, the bases for the rats were already gone. And you looked all over this room, but you couldn't find anything. So you figured that there might be something in the hallway with all the doors. So you went and had a look? Yeah. And while you were looking around, you heard voices? Uh-huh. So you followed the voices and came back here? Indeed. And that was how we found you. Jumpy examined the 3 rats again, just in case. On the bottom of each was a long, thin gap. It looked like a slot for something, probably something electronic. Well, this isn't good. If the rat is inactive, we can't keep going. Well, what about that hallway over there? Isn't there anywhere else we can go? No, there isn't. There are plenty more hospital rooms, but nothing else. Hospital rooms? That's what's behind all those doors? Yes. There are a number of individual rooms, in addition to this large one. There was a door at the end of the hallway, but it was locked. There was an astrological symbol engraved near the keyhole, however. I was able to get a good, feel of it. Believe it was a symbol of Jupiter. Not again. Those goddamn things are everywhere. I wonder what they all mean. For a moment, everyone was silent, deep in thought. While we are asking what things mean, what's the deal with this room? I mean, I thought it was a cruise ship, but I can't imagine a cruise ship would have a hospital like this. Of all people, it was 7 who answered, and with calm confidence. Well, I figure it's probably a hospital ship. Chances are it's a gigantic... Wie spricht man das im Englischen gescheit aus? Gigantic? Gigantic? It's a gigantic. Keine Ahnung. Ja, gigantic. The gigantic? Jumpy looked confused. So did everyone else. What is this gigantic? 7 knit his brows for a moment, then began to explain. The gigantic. He explained that she had been a sister ship to the Titanic, built in the early 20th century. The Titanic had 2 sister ships, who were identical to one another in nearly every aspect. The gigantic was said to be one of them. She was initially intended to be a passenger liner, like the Titanic, but soon after the ship was launched, the First World War began, and she was pressed into duty by the British Navy as a hospital ship. Some time later, the gigantic was damaged by a German mine in the Aegean Sea. She managed to run aground after the incident and consequently was not sunk. What then happened to the gigantic after her fateful encounter in the Aegean Sea? One theory ran that a man named Lord Gordane purchased her. Lord Gordane, it seemed, had been one of the few survivors of the Titanic tragedy, and that trauma had turned him into an obsessive collector of all things related to the Titanic. As his obsession deepened, he began to desire the Titanic itself. That, of course, was impossible. The Titanic lay at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. The gigantic, however, had not suffered such a dire fate, and as she was identical to her sister ship, she caught Lord Gordane's eye. So you're saying this Lord Gordane bought this ship? Yeah, at least I think I am. That's impossible. No way we're on some boat that's almost 100 years old. Pipe down. Just pay attention. What? That's it? Well, have you got any proof? Proof? Proof that this ship is really the gigantic. Well, this ship's got stuff that's like the Titanic and a hospital ship. So I just figured.
Oh, for goodness. Don't tell me that's your only reason.
No, I've got more.
Like?
Well, I mean... Seven looked around desperately, doing anything to avoid meeting Lotus' piercing stare. He scratched his head for a moment, then gave up. Finally, he opened his mouth. I don't know. Lotus sighed and shook her head.
I guess your memory isn't back yet, is it?
Yeah, sorry about that. Hey, wait a minute. Memory isn't back? Jumpy was, he felt, legitimately shocked by what seemed to be new and very important information. Everyone else, however, seemed unimpressed. In fact, they all looked at Jumpy as though he had something very strange. He had said something very strange. He decided to revise his attitude for the next question. Wait, was I the only one that didn't know? Everyone nodded. Why? Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't tell you, huh? I told the rest of them before we ran into you on the stairs. I told them I couldn't remember a damn thing from before I woke up. What? Then, almost as if to save Jumpy from further embarrassment, a bell began to ring from far away. It sounded as though it was a clock at the main stairway. Jumpy counted each chime carefully. 10, 11, 12.
It's midnight. Then we've still got 6 hours left, right?
We don't have any time to screw around. Let's get going. We gotta find the missing parts for the rats.
What do you mean find? How on earth do you propose we do that?
We've looked everywhere in this room. That only leaves one place to look.
One?
Well, I guess that's not really right.
Wait. Don't tell me. You mean we need to search all of the other rooms?
Don't freak out. We already searched 4 of them.
4 rooms?
We just have to split up the rest between the 8 of us. If each person does 6 rooms, that'll be 40 rooms, right? 48 rooms. Okay, hab's nicht richtig gelesen.
So there are 48 rooms left.
Left? Ich kann nicht mehr lesen. Ich höre gleich auf. Wird eh bald Zeit für eine Pause, aber gleich kommt auch ein super Abschnitt oder beziehungsweise ein super Moment, um kurz die Aufnahmen zu unterbrechen. Her earlier experiences had apparently not encouraged Lotus to trust Seven. Seven scratched his head awkwardly. I don't know. Ja. After a little more discussion, they split up and headed toward the rooms to begin searching them. Jumpy was chosen to search the rooms on the starboard side, moving from fore to aft. They also determined when they would return to report their findings. The next time, the clock sounded the time. When it did, they would meet back in the large central room full of beds. If, during their search, any one of them were to locate the missing components, they were to yell for the others. If this strategy failed, they'd return to discuss their options later. The details decided, they left to begin searching. Out into the hallway they went, each to the rooms they'd been assigned. However. So, und jetzt als nächstes würde eben die Glocke läuten. Und für Jumpy ist dann der Moment gekommen, zurück zu den anderen zu laufen, um zu erfahren, was die denn so gefunden oder gemacht haben. Ja, wie gesagt, ist ein super Moment, um dann einfach mal die Aufnahme an der Stelle kurz zu unterbrechen. Hat mir wieder viel Spaß gemacht. Ich glaube, das hat man teilweise auch so ein ganz klein bisschen gemerkt. Und das Spiel ist für mich immer noch extrem toll und cool. Und ich hoffe, für euch ist das Spiel auch immer noch extrem toll und cool. Über Kommentare und dergleichen würde ich mich natürlich wie immer sehr, sehr freuen. Und ja, ansonsten freue ich mich einfach auf euer Feedback und wir sehen uns dann im nächsten Video, wenn es dann eben weitergeht mit 999, 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. Bis dahin, Heringway sagt Tschö mit Ö und hoffentlich bis ganz bald.